Okay, sorry. A little abrupt ending on that last video, but anyway, I wanted to come back and get to the next set of nodes that we can work on, which is going to be our satmap nodes. Satmaps are going to give us some really good color to work with. It's up to you if you want to actually use these in the long run, but because of the way that we have to use tiled textures, the satmaps aren't always the best thing to use, but they might be good for your far out scenery. I still want to show you kind of what you end up with uh, for this purpose. So with this file, I'm just going to kind of drag it out, and let's start first by adding a texture node. Okay. So you can see this texture node kind of gave us some details or some black and white information around the texture of that terrain. Also add in a rock map. It's another good one to use. Rock map, I typically like to invert because of how bright it is from the beginning. I just want a little bit to show that's a good start. So we have our rock map and our texture map. Those are looking pretty good. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that we might want to add. Let's start with this for now. Um, let's put this into what's called a sat map. Or, I'm sorry. Let's combine these first. We're going to combine these with a screen method. The screen method, again, just kind of taking what's light and adding it into the other. And so you're just kind of ending up with a little bit brighter spots where the rocks are. Not too much happening with that. So I'll drag this out into a node called satmaps. Satmaps is really cool. So if you look here, you've got black and white information, right? That's kind of your gradient information that's coming through here. That gradient should line up to the satmap gradient. So satmaps are there to give you realistic, like satellite looking data or colors that you might find when you're looking at an image in a satellite, from like a satellite image. So basically, it's going to take all that information here. It's going to line it up with a gradient, so from black to white, and whatever the color is going to fall into one of these categories. You have a lot of different colors and things that we can choose from, and you can easily see how it changes your terrain pretty quickly as you add more stuff. So another fun little trick, right? Okay, so we've added a sat map here. It's colored the entire terrain. That's great. But let's say we want to get a little bit more specific as to what we want the colors to look like. Um, I'm happy with the whole terrain kind of looking like this for now, but I want to maybe, let's just say you want to change the colors of how the flows look. Now, if you ask me, these flows look really good. They look pretty natural, pretty realistic. Don't want to really change them too much, but for the purpose of this demo, we'll do that. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to bring in this file to a new node called flow. Okay. Look at flow. Again, it's totally up to you as to how you want this to look, but I'm going to initially set this as a 1-to-1 quality. And instead of tertiary, I'm going to use secondary. And that gives me a little bit harder lines. I feel like a little stronger masking for the flow. Now I have this flow mask. I'm just going to leave that alone for now. I talked about saying I wanted another color for that. I don't know what color would look the best at the moment, but we'll take a stab. So let's add another sat map for that file. Okay, let's choose a different color altogether. Let's make our flows go crazy red. See what happens. All right. So we've got our one version here. We've got another version here. Uh, Same height map being colored two different ways. When you take a color node and put it into a combine as the first node, it changes the combine to a purple version, which means it's going to basically output the colors, not the height, but the colors. So that's just something to think about. And then I'm going to combine these together. Okay, so that's kind of it's not too bad. All right, I mean I wouldn't complain that much about it looking like that. But like I said, I just want this color to show up where this white is. So I've combined these two together, but I kind of want to say just combine them where it's white. Okay. And then I also want to go 100% on the blend so that all that red comes through, or all that dark red came through. So you can see now we've got quite a strong color coming in on the flow. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to leave it alone. I can't tell you if I like it or not, but it's something. It's something there for sure. Okay, cool. All right, so that to me is a good way to color your landscape. All right, let's move to how you might color your track. So sometimes I like to take the file and output it to a soil node. This is all your soil data for your track. Okay, and then we'll change it to graded. Apply that. And now we got a little, what I'm looking for right now with this soil data is like, is it giving me some sort of variations here on my jumps and different spots? And it is. Now, soil, it's just one that is just an example of something that I'm giving you right now. There's also another one called like curvature that can work sometimes. So curvature, will kind of give you a little bit of the details of like the curves that are happening in the terrain. You can see stuff like the erosion a little bit better. So I like to take soil and curvature and then combine these together. Again, I use that screen pretty often. And so now I think I've got, and really all I'm paying attention to is just the track. I could care less about what it looks like outside of the track. I'm focused on coloring the track for this particular setup. So I've combined these two. I've got the soil, I've got the curvature, combined them, and then let's bring them into a sat map. Okay. Um, I'm fine with the sat map. It's actually what I kind of wanted to look for was something with a little bit darker color. What I think I might do is maybe, yeah, tweak this to really have it dark. Or actually, no, let's go back to it being lighter, but let's change the bias around. Um, Something that I don't like is that when these sat maps sometimes come in and you use certain things, you get these like bands, and you got to play with it to kind of figure out how to get rid of it. Sometimes you can adjust your bias and um, what the colors should be, etc. I kind of want them to just be very uniform. So I'm going to look for something slightly different. In our sat maps, we have options like sandy, rocky, green, blue, colorful, all that stuff. I'm just going to grab something like this. This is good enough for me. It's very uniform, I believe. I'm going to move it back up to where I had it, I think, right there. I can deal with that. So you got your height map colorized like this. That's kind of what we want to stick with for the landscape. I think, for the terrain, I'm okay with having it kind of colored like that. With this color, you can sort of see it coming through. So what do? We are going to combine these again. So I want this one to be the main one that we're combining. And I want to drag in this sat map. And again, I only want to combine it where the layout's at. Okay? And then we'll do 100% so that all that sand track comes through. So that flow piece, I'm going to actually inhibit as well. or mask it so it doesn't put flow. Oh, whoops. I actually want to invert this. So we're going to invert the layout mask. So it's that one thing again. Cool. I just wanted to make sure that the flows weren't going to show up on the actual track. So I think that should hide it now. Maybe not. Something I'm trying to work out is why did this section up here, we went from this file looking like that. Yeah, it's something kind of weird with these satmaps is they'll tend to bring in some of the other terrain, even though this terrain is not really what the height map looks like. I'm not sure what's going on right now, but really that should be all blurred out. And I'm not sure why. So not a big deal. It really isn't because now I can go ahead and just mark that for export as a color map if I wanted. So you have all these options to mark them out if you'd like. And one of the coolest things I think is if you've combined a bunch of nodes together or combined a few nodes, and let's say you want a mask that shows how they're separated, okay? So I've added these two nodes together, and then obviously they're going to be separated by the layout mask. But there's a lot of times where you don't know if that's truly what's separating these. So you can take this combine. Oh, it looks like this one doesn't allow you to do the separation mask. What I wanted to show here was on a combine node, you have the ability to say, show me how it's being separated. So if I actually make this into a separation mask instead, and just check that, you'll see there's a texture file coming in, and then there's a rock map coming in. If I right click here and I go separation instead of output, it's kind of showing how it's separating these two. Now, I think I'm picking some very bad examples, so let's not get too focused on this right now, considering it's not working. But I'll show that in another demo. So I've gone through, I've created color. And now I will mark it for export. Okay. So I've got our layout, I've got our height map, I've got our color, I've got a normal, I've got a specular, and a shrub mask. And I can go ahead and click start build and then click, I'm just gonna, rebuild it from the beginning. Fantastic. Looking here, got a color node. Oops, I must have exported that as a TIFF. Let's go fix that. You can always change those in Photoshop later. So open this in Photoshop and we will see, right, that we've got color map, our height map and layout. We got our normal, and then we have our specular. And then for your specular, it's all up to you at this point. Typically, I think what I do is just bring the brightness way down a couple times. So channels, gray, Create a little alpha channel for it. I select all, copy it. I hop over to the normal. I add an alpha channel. I hold Control, Shift, and then I paste with V. Control, Shift, V. It'll paste it in place. Now I have my spec map pasted in as the spec map for my normal. I could save this if I wanted to. Oops. This needs to be saved in mode. Targa. Yeah. So that's my normal, that's my specular, and then here's my color. You have all the other options too. You can desaturate this one if you wanted to. Turn this into a black and white image for use. You can come back in here. For example, you could tweak the height map file. So I guess, let's just, for fun, let's go ahead and build up this corner a little bit more. Okay. Build up this berm. Okay. And then just to kind of like start thinking here, just to kind of give you another example, I'm going to, I'm just going to add a pile of rubble here with this noise adder piece so that we have a reference of it being updated later on. Okay, so I made a couple of changes here. Just so you know, that's kind of my one way to add some rubble if you want, or some sediment. Okay, so I'm going to export this out. It's already kind of been set up. If I go back to Gaea, right? Let's just look at this final height map here real fast. You'll see my pile of rubble does not exist yet, but the file is still connected to that. Next time you open and reload Gaea, it will refresh that file and show up here. So it's there. It's going. Gaea is kind of aware of it, just not yet. So if you really want, you can go in. You can click Browse. You can select the file again. It's kind of a slow way to do it, or use the force refresh down here. So if you have a node selected and you hit force refresh, it'll refresh just that node. If you have no node selected, it's going to refresh every node. I'm going to refresh just this node because it's highlighted. I'll refresh it. And not sure if you saw that, but the rubble, the berm, all those changes came through. Okay. So save it out again if I want. Blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of a very cool way to, get things started and have a project where you sort of have a one-click build to rebuild all of your masks, whatever you need. There's a lot of stuff in here to play with. Um, we'll jump over to the basic terrain as a starting point. But another really cool feature is the zero borders node. So you can throw this in if you want a node that will help you. Let's just say round off your edges on your height map a little bit. Oh, the reason why that's not displaying is because I had this set up as an underlay. If you look, right, here is your height map before the zero borders. There's no margin yet. So if I just add about 10 margin, you can see the edges of the zero borders are starting to kind of fall in. So you can get your height map to a point where if you wanted, you could kind of just end it without having weird cliffs or stuff like that. So definitely an option to play with, this zero borders thing. But there's just so many things to do in here, to kind of procedurally generate what you need. One of my favorite ones to use is the stacks. Uh, the Southwest landscape is literally one of my favorite things to look at. So the stacks node is just kind of a great way to add in some stuff like mesas or terrain, stuff like that. You can come in here, um, add this Talus Pass, stuff like that. You get these kind of interesting versions. But again, if you're not following the correct order of things, you might end up overwriting your nodes, or the terrain may generate a little weird or do something you weren't expecting. So a lot of things to kind of play around with and see what you like. But I do think this is a good start for at least getting to a point where you have a map that almost looks like that within, I guess this tutorial took about an hour maybe to show. So anyway, yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I thought that this would just be kind of a good little series to put out there for people maybe looking to try something new for building MX Bikes tracks. Talk to you later.